you. Representative Dean.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Secretary McMahon, I wanted to hit quickly two topics. Mental health cuts. The administration cut $1 billion. Well, actually, let's put it this way. Just stop paying $1 billion allocated for mental health service professional demonstration grant and school-based mental health services grant. Do you recognize that our school children are struggling with mental health? Many of our children are struggling with mental health.
I think mental health is
Do you recognize our students are struggling?
a critical component around the country.
Our students.
Some students, yes.
Yes. It was made worse during the time of COVID. It is exacerbated by school shootings. I noted that you said you were going to meet with parents and children who had struggled and suffered the trauma of school shootings. I've done that over the years, sadly. I've had the opportunity to meet with Uvalde parents, with Parkland parents, with Sandy Hook parents. Are you meeting with parents and children, students in those places?
I have only in Sandy Hook because that happened in my state of Connecticut.
Yes.
So I have met with some of those parents shortly after, and I can't imagine a more horrible tragedy than that.
How about the students, to see how they're affected?
I've not talked to many of the students, no.
Do you plan to do that?
Sure, I would enjoy doing that.
How soon can you do that? Because you did talk about doing that on CNN recently.
I'm not sure how quickly. But,
You're the secretary. You could do whatever you want because, after all, you're cutting all this funding. You've got time.
I've got a lot of responsibilities to do, and we're going to focus on the things that I think are going to ensure that we're providing equal education for all of the students in our country.
That's great, which is just in contrast to actually what you have said and what you said the president cares about. He wants the best educated students, right? He wants to make education great again, right?
Yes.
I don't understand. It seems like a logic fallacy to me. You think the federal Department of Education is not living up to what it ought to be doing, and you cite some statistics for students who are not doing as well as they ought to be. And yet you decide that the answer to that is not to check on these investments and make sure students are achieving. It is shut the whole doggone thing down.
Well,
That doesn't make any sense.
Well, I think the fallacy is the way you're stating it. And what I have looked at and said from the very beginning, we have failed. This system we have in place does not work.
So it is your mission to shut it down.
It is the mission to shut down the bureaucracy of the Department of Education and return education to the
shut down the
states.
Department of Education.
To shut down the bureaucracy.
What's the balance right now?
To shut down the bureaucracy
What's the balance
of the
right
Department
now
of Education.
in the funding for education? What's the split, the pie chart? How much is federal? How much is state and local?
Federal is about 8 to 10%.
Correct. The rest is state and local. The burden is already there. And you don't want to come up with the 8% to help our kids succeed, to help their mental health,
excuse
to
me
help
just a second.
kids with disabilities.
No, you're wrong. You're
It
misstating.
is a logic fallacy.
No, you are misstating. The funding, it's not taking away all of this funding. I've already said Title I-A funding, IDEA funding is still going to come into
How about the mental
states.
health funding?
There may be some more of that funding if HHS oversees then.
But the president
mental
has
funding,
unconstitutionally
then,
cut off
therefore,
the
that
grants.
funding may come into those states. So
about-
I think we have to see
how about
the
students
full
with
budget
disabilities?
happens.
How about
And I
students?
think we have to see what those programs are that are going to best serve every student and not just be put by the wayside.
As I said, you on page 1 of your testimony,
The
you said
gentlelady's time
the president's
expired.
vision is to
Let's talk about this exchange. Because what happened between Secretary McMahon and Congresswoman Madeline Dean is one of those moments where the disconnect between rhetoric and reality is just painfully obvious. What makes this hearing so unsettling isn't just one funding decision or one sharp exchange of words. It's the worldview behind it. Because what Secretary McMahon is essentially saying, without ever quite saying it plainly, is that the federal government's role in education should shrink even if the problems facing students are growing. And Madeline Dean is standing there saying, "Look around. The problems are growing." That tension is the story. We are living in a moment where kids are not just behind academically, they are overwhelmed emotionally. They've grown up with lockdown drills, active shooter drills, pandemic disruption, social isolation, and nonstop anxiety pumped straight into their phones. Teachers see it every day. Parents see it at home. Counselors see it when kids finally break down in their offices. And yet, at the federal level, the response being offered is distance, fewer obligations, less responsibility, more finger-pointing towards states and agencies that may or may not ever pick up the slack. And here's the thing that doesn't get said enough. When funding gets paused or reallocated or shifted to another agency, the harm doesn't wait politely for the paperwork to catch up. The harm happens immediately. Schools don't hire that counselor. Programs shut down quietly. Students who were finally getting help lose it, often without explanation. And those students don't care which agency was supposed to oversee the money. They just know the door closed. What Madeline Dean keeps trying to do in this exchange is force accountability back into the conversation. Not in a partisan way, but in a human one. She's saying, if you claim to care about equal education, then you have to care about unequal burdens. You have to care about the kids who need more support, not less. And you have to care enough to show up, to listen, to meet them face to face instead of talking about them from a distance. That's why the question about meeting students matters so much. It's not symbolic, it's revealing. Because leadership that doesn't engage directly with the people affected by its decisions will always find it easier to cut, to delay, and to deflect. When you don't sit across from a student who can't focus because they're terrified, or a parent who's lost a child, those budget lines stay abstract. They stay clean. They stay easy to erase. And this is where the logic really collapses. You cannot argue that a system is failing, refuse to invest in fixing it, and then claim that dismantling it proves your point. That's not reform. That's abandonment. And calling it returning power to the states doesn't change the reality that some states will step up and some will not, and the kids who lose out will almost always be the same ones who have been losing out for generations. The Department of Education isn't perfect. No serious person believes it is. But the answer to imperfection is improvement, not disappearance. Oversight exists because history demanded it. Federal involvement exists because without it, too many children were ignored, underserved, or written off entirely. And pretending we can go backward without consequences is not optimism. It's denial. What makes this exchange linger is that Madeline Dean isn't just arguing policy. She's arguing responsibility. She's asking whether we actually mean it when we say children matter. Whether mental health is something we prioritize when it's inconvenient and expensive, or only when it fits neatly into a press release. Whether equal education is a slogan, or a commitment backed by real resources and real engagement. Because at the end of the day, kids don't need ideological consistency. They need stability. They need support. They need adults in power who understand that learning doesn't happen when fear, grief, and anxiety go unaddressed. And no amount of talk about bureaucracy can erase that truth. This hearing makes one thing painfully clear. The debate isn't just about where money comes from or which agency controls it. It's about whether we are willing to meet this moment with seriousness, empathy, and honesty. Whether we're willing to accept that the crisis facing students is not hypothetical, not exaggerated, and not something that can be solved by shrinking our sense of obligation. And if we can't even agree that children's mental health is worth protecting now, in this moment, then the question is whether the system has failed. The question is who failed the system. If this kind of deep dive commentary is something you appreciate, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who cares about where education in this country is headed. And definitely drop a comment below. I want to hear whether you think this exchange reflects leadership, avoidance, or something even more troubling.